Yo, welcome back. You find me here in Vienna in my Airbnb. And before you're like, oh, why are you not exploring? Why are you not out there? First off, I have. Second off, today it hit 99 degrees. I didn't want to bake myself into a cake. So I came back a little bit early. I was like, let me do some editing. Let me record a video. Now, for you and for me. Anyways, I want to talk a little bit about my cool, fun, and quirky experience visiting London for about 4 or 5 hours and the photos that I took there and the time that I had. So I guess we can start off with the flight there. So I went from Los Angeles to London, which is around 10 hours, and the flight was pretty uneventful. I watched like a movie or two, had some of the food, and caught some sleep. So we landed in London around 10:30 a.m. It took a little bit for us to get to the gate and deboarded, but surprisingly, immigration was super quick. There was like no line, and what I didn't know was that there was an electronic passport point where you could just scan your passport and they'd let you in. They just needed to take a picture of your face, and that was available to certain countries. So I didn't even get a stamp or anything. It took me literally 30 seconds, and I was in the UK, just like that. First, I dropped off my luggage at the airport so I didn't have to lug around and carry on luggage throughout the city. I thought that was a good idea. It was £20, not bad. Then I took the Heathrow Express from Terminal 5 into the city, and that was where the first mistake began. So I bought a round trip ticket for £39, and that would have been a discount instead of buying two one-way tickets. So one way was like £21, so all in all saving £2 or £3, and it was fine and all if I was able to use it. So when I reached Paddington Station, I thought I had to input my ticket again to get out of the station, but when I put it into the machine, it just ate it, and there was no staff there since everything is all electronic to really help me to get the ticket back. And I didn't really have that much time, so I was like, all right, whatever, I'll just figure something out. So there's $15 wasted, but it's whatever. It's all about the experience, right? So I started off from Paddington. I took the tube, that's what it is. And I decided to go to, sorry, I had to look it up. I went to Buckingham Palace, so I took some photos there, walked around, and it was a pretty mild day, like 70 degrees-ish, and pretty gloomy, really cloudy, which is what I expected of London anyways. There were so many people. I guess I should have expected it. It's August, so it's the summer travel season, but kind of in the midst of, the pandemic, so people are still getting COVID, there's monkeypox, things like that, so I would think that maybe there's less travelers, but no, everything you've seen on the news is true. The summer travel surge is so real. I feel that the city was way more crowded than when I visited Paris back in 2019. It was insane. Like, the streets are packed. You can't like walk anywhere because you have to wait because there's just so many people. It's too crowded. And then I took a walk down to Trafalgar Square, took a picture, and just kept going. I kind of wanted to just hit the landmarks and like things to see, since I only had 4 hours since I planned this layover between my flight from LA to London and then London to Vienna. I wanted to just walk around the city for a bit, so just kept walking the streets. I didn't really have a goal other than just seeing the things to see. I didn't really have an objective to photograph. I just took my camera out, stuck the lens on, and just took photos of whatever presented itself to me. I do have to note that I was using a new 28mm lens that I got recently, specifically for this trip. It was only around $100. The TT Artisan 17mm 1.4, and that's a 28mm equivalent for Fuji crop sensors, which is a 1.5 crop. Anyways, enough of nerdy stuff. What it did affect in my images was that, one, it's just a wider angle lens, but not too wide. It's still close to 35-50, what you normally see with your eye, but you can tell that you do feel a bit distant to the subject, especially when you're not in a crowded situation if you're trying to take a picture of somebody. But I guess that also represents me being in a new place, unfamiliar area, and just how busy the whole thing was. Just think about the itinerary that I had to do. I literally got off a plane, figure out transportation, etc., etc. So many people, busy, etc. You know what I mean? It was a busy time. New lens also, right? And it's a manual focus lens too. I ended up walking to Big Ben or Elizabeth Tower, took some photos from a street corner that I took interest to. I kind of camped there for 10-15 minutes. What I did notice looking back at the photos of everything I took and remembering what I was doing there, I tried to go for a lot of motion. There was lots of cars, lots of people. Everything was in movement. Everything seemed in constant flow, ebbing and flowing like a tide, but the tide was chaotic and just going everywhere because just there's so many people, so many things happening at one spot. It just felt overwhelming. So I kind of wanted to capture that motion. So I tried to shoot at a lower shutter speed. Also, I finally got to see a London taxi, which was nice. Didn't get to ride it. It's probably expensive, but off the bucket list of things to see. I walked across the bridge and took a photo of the London Eye, which I didn't ride because the line was insane. I think you can see it on one of these photos, just a slew of people across that. I probably would have taken 2 hours just to be in that line by itself. What did come to interest was the Uber boat. I don't know if it's just Uber buying the company that does the boat tours or it being an actual Uber boat. I can just imagine you can request on the Uber app a boat and that shit will pull up wherever you are walking down on the Thames and just pick you up. That would be kind of insane. Anyways, I walked back since I needed to go to a different location, and as I was walking back, took a photo of this guy taking a selfie of the clock, and it was funny because everyone around him is looking at him like he's insane, like the guy in the ripped jean shorts, looking at him like, huh? And the kids are also looking at him, so it doesn't matter what age you are. It's funny if you're bald. There are so many of these shops that were selling knockoff merch, I guess cheap gear. Yes, I guess that's what you'd call it, out on the streets. And those were interesting places to stop by for a few minutes just to get a sense of the place. There's always people looking around the stores, and it's just a good opportunity to take some photos. Here's a photo of the tube. I noticed that my lens is pretty soft wide open, I guess since it's a Chinese lens, but it has a nice glow to it too, which I do appreciate it. So, learning new things about the lens. And then I'm taking photos of the shard, that's what it's called, yes. Yes, I looked it up right now. The shard from a distance, pointy, ironic image of pedestrians having to wait, but also bike guy in his electric bike having to wait as well. And what I noticed in these images are there are a lot of those tourist bus, like the hop off big buses. My God, there's so many of them that go around London. And I'm pretty sure they are in most of these images, just somewhere in like a random corner. A nice photo of a pink ice cream truck. And me taking photos of the shard as I walk across Tower Bridge. I notice here that I'm still in that phase of taking street photography, of taking photos from behind people, not in front of people. And I guess that I just haven't gotten comfortable enough to do that, or brave enough with my skills, and I guess that just reflects my personality, especially when I'm traveling alone. I just like to keep low-key. But hopefully I can grow in that sense. More photos of motion. and Tower Bridge. Road called Wapping, funny. And a few more photos. Anyways, there's an interesting distinction between being a photographer but then also a tourist. Because as a tourist, you have an agenda. You want to see the most popular sites, take pictures of them, experience those common things that define that place in order for you to get a good idea of where you're at with the limited time that you have. But as a photographer, you want to take your time and be more contemplative of your surroundings and, for example, be at a location for hours on end just to get that perfect photo. But that's the problem, you don't have that time. Street photographers of old have based themselves in a singular city, New York, London, Paris, etc., and they lived there for years. They know the ins and outs of the city. They know exactly where to be at exactly what time to get a certain type of shot. They know how the people interact, the culture, things behind the photo that you don't see. They know exactly what to do. But you, as a tourist, might not even know the language of where you're at, albeit the culture, and obviously you're not going to know the exact spots to be. So that kind of concludes my 4 to 5 hour walking tour of London. And like I said, I just wanted to hit the major spots, the things that you'd see on a Google Maps pop out in like 3D view or stuff like that, just to knock it off my bucket list and be like, hey, I've been here and you haven't, so you're dog shit. But anyways, it was a good time. It's like a good introduction to my Europe trip, I guess, since everyone spoke English, everything's familiar, even though obviously it's a melting pot. But it was kind of chaotic as well, in terms of just the place. There's so many people, so many things happening, but also me being stupid, and the train. Also, on the way back, I made a mistake too. I took the wrong Elizabeth line train. I went to the one that was going to head to Reading, because it splits near the end of the line apparently to the airport, Heathrow or Reading. So I had to get off at a random stop that was just in an industrial park and wait for the Heathrow train. But that was only like a 5-minute wait. Shout out public transport in Europe, honestly. That's like a topic for another video. But anyways, hopped on my, got back to Heathrow, got my luggage, checked in, went through security, went to the lounge, flight was delayed, all good. Got onto the flight, lost my GoPro, but I got it back, and yeah, I'm in Vienna and going to Prague. I guess that's for a different video, but thanks for listening to my little photography vlog narrative, or I guess it's like a photo walk video. Hopefully I can make more of these, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed this calming video. Yeah, I'll see you next time.